Spiny crab appears, a master of the art of disguise. It very skillfully collects pieces of leaves and roots and carries them on its back, where its spines, bristles, and tubercles anchor them firmly. When it has finished clothing itself, it begins to think about eating. Maneuvering its claws like a sophisticated robot, the spiny crab carefully chooses one of the tiny organisms encrusting the leaves, preferring the choice morsels. These magnificent fields are greatly decreasing in vast areas of the Mediterranean. The causes are complex and numerous, and certainly some human activities are not unrelated to the phenomenon. Among the various disturbing factors, those directly affecting the Posidonia fields are among the most significant. One of these is the dragnet. Their use is very common along the Italian coasts, despite a law prohibiting this method of fishing within 3 miles of the coast. The great decrease in fishing hauls due to overexploitation of traditional fishing zones in the open sea and the almost total lack of appropriate controls has led some fishermen to operate in waters closer to the coast. The violent impact of a net being dragged across the Posidonia field has disastrous effects. Besides shifting the sediment, it upsets the compact structure of the rhizomes. In this way, the field is unable to preserve the nutritive particles indispensable for its growth. This does not include the enormous quantity of leaves stripped away. During the summer season, when the vegetation is at its peak of development, nearly a ton of leaves are destroyed during every 6 minutes of dragging. Since nets that are too fine are often used, the drag nets capture fish that are too little to be sold. The great decrease in the quantity of fish recorded during the last 15 years is the result of excessive and misguided exploitation of marine resources, considered wrongly to be limitless. Some people even utilize fishing methods that are, to say the least, criminal. Fishing with bombs is still widely used in the Mediterranean. And it is very difficult to understand the motives of a fishing method whose destructive aspects far outweigh the productive ones. Locating the school of fish is often a matter of guesswork. And many bombs are exploded uselessly, causing serious damage to the environment. Only 40% of the fish are recuperated, those that come to the surface, while the remaining 60% lie rotting on the sea bottom. This method of fishing, if it can be called that, often uses a hit-and-run strategy and is therefore difficult to control. Though man very often squanders the precious resources of the sea, in some cases he unwittingly offers marine organisms unsuspected possibilities for growth. The wrecks of various types of vessels, such as this warship, lie abandoned all over the Mediterranean Sea bottom and provide the inhabitants of the sea with virgin territory for settlement. Every nook and corner of the wrecks is promptly occupied by new tenants, and each chooses the arrangement best suited to its biological needs. The algae and the bacteria are the first to occupy these reefs of iron. They are attracted by the large quantity of invisible plankton larvae that wander through the sea bottom looking for a suitable substratum in which to develop. The ship's hold becomes the preferred dwelling place of those animals that love dim light, such as the gorgonias. They cover the cold metal walls like a precious oriental tapestry. The ship's cabins, the domain of a lively incrustation of sponges, provide a refuge where fish can conceal themselves. On the decks, the salpie tranquilly graze. The handrails and the gun tower are covered with a soft carpet of algae, sponges, and a thick crust of organisms that prefer direct light. Even the Neptune grass has found the ideal conditions for growth, and a tiny field is beginning to sprout on the deck of the ship. Once an instrument of death, this warship has now been transformed into a submerged island. Its infinite possibilities for refuge and food supplies make life burst forth there almost like magic. When it was discovered that life on these underwater wrecks was abundant and well protected, attempts were made to reproduce the same favorable conditions by submerging various metal and cement structures that would function as artificial reefs, and at the same time obstruct dragnet fishing along the coast. Nevertheless, effective protection cannot be realized only with the means and techniques we have seen. In the end, they only create little islands in the desert. It's now clear that protective measures must be spread over a much larger area. They must safeguard those impoverished sea bottom areas that can still be saved, and also those areas of particular biological interest, such as the breeding grounds of marine organisms. Italy is not the leading country in the Mediterranean regarding marine conservation, but marine reserves are finally being instituted. The first of 20 planned marine parks provided by the law to defend the sea has been inaugurated in the town of Ustica. In this marine reserve, totally protected zones lie next to controlled fishing areas. Rational management criteria should guarantee both an increase in the edible species with obvious advantages for the local fishermen and the defense of this valuable animal patrimony.